See, the ultimate truth, Brahman or the Paramatma, it has got a twofold power or expression. One is called Jnana. I would like to describe it as Jnana Bhava. Another is called Kriya, activity. It is called a Shakti, like energy. Jnana is not energy. It is only a Bhava, an aspect. So, Sutra and Mahan. The word Sutra indicates the source of all activity originating from Prana. So, this is considered to be Sutra. Sutratma is a. Mahan means Mahat. That is considered to be the supreme intelligent source. Mahan ahamidi pravadanti jivam. Aham means the ahankara. That is the medium for jiva to act and to experience things. Now these are what originally had. And how were they remaining? Jnana, kriya, artha, phala, rupadaya, urushakti. Jnana, kriya, artha, phala, rupadaya. It is manifold magnificence. Magnificence of a manifold nature. Revealing or displaying what? Knowledge, activity, happiness and misery. If you analyze your life, all these are there. Every time some knowledge or the other is there, some activity is there, including breathing activity, circulation of blood, etc. Sometimes we are very happy, we are experiencing. Even all other beings also have joy, animals and birds and others. Misery, the opposite of happiness. All these are the manifold magnificence of the whole thing. Brahman alone shines as the gross and subtle universe here. Brahmaiva bhati. That Brahman has got all these powers. What are the powers? Knowledge, activity, happiness, misery, etc. Brahmaiva bhati sadasaccha tayoh param yad. Brahmaiva bhati. The supreme reality Brahman alone is shining everywhere. Sad asat cha means gross as well as subtle. In the form of Panchabhutas and subtle things like mind, intelligence and ego. Param yad. That is the supreme reality, O Maharaja. Sattvam rajastama yidi trivrdega madhav sutram mahanahamidi pravadanti jivam jnana kriya artha phala rupadayoru shakti brahmaiva bhadi sadasaccha tayoh param yad. I sometimes wonder whether you viewers are able to keep pace with me, keep in tune with me. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, a great devotionally excellent scripture. And they are discussing a conversation between whom and whom? Between Emperor Nimi and Nava-yogis. And what is the occasion? The holiest of sacrifice the emperor was performing. A religious sacrifice. That sacrifice stands suspended for a while. And the performer, the Maharaja, is entering into a conversation which is nothing but philosophy and spirituality. The general style of the headline of the discussion is Bhagavata Dharma. And in the Bhagavata Dharma, all these philosophical dissertations are introduced. Why are we becoming so philosophical? Or Nimi is addressed so philosophically by Pipalayana? Because the mind of the devotee should understand the whole concept of creation. He is constantly chanting the name of the God, practicing devotion, and God becomes the fulcrum, the pivot, the refuge, everything. It cannot be merely an emotional one. Every human, the devotee included, has got an intelligence. The intelligence always seeks knowledge. It will never be satisfied with anything different from knowledge. If our stomach becomes hungry, for appeasement it calls for food. That is the requirement of the body for nourishing the body. In the same manner, the inner mind, which is not made up of bodily substances, that has got the hunger for peace and joy. The intelligence also has similar hunger for knowledge. So the devotee cannot totally cut off his intelligence. As a devotee of God, he must understand how supreme, how great, and how the singular source of the whole creation is. So it is the duty of every exponent, every seeker, every knower to explain the subject of devotion in a proper manner. Srimad Bhagavata being a very scholarly compendium on the subject of devotion, touching all the substances, all the constituents, God, world, and the jiva, the human. It discusses all these things to make you understand what is the enormity, what is the enormous nature of the inner hemisphere which is apparently contained within the biological body. See, normally scientists are dealing with the matter world. We need not be scientists. It's enough if you are devotees and spiritual seekers. Even then, the subject of devotion, the subject of God, and the subject of inner experience and the inmost self, for us it is a beautiful scientific pursuit. See how the devotee's mind is lifted to the very source of the universe. How many things are there? Chit, called consciousness, is there. This consciousness becomes functional, experiential, and manifest. And in order to make the manifestation, we have a few concepts like Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha means what? The knowledge aspect. Kshetra Kshetrajna, says Krishna. The whole universe is made up of Kshetra, and Kshetrajna is only one. And everything is an interaction between the Kshetrajna and the Kshetra. Then for Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha represents the knowledge, Prakriti represents matter and energy. And the first part is Pradhana, Avyakta, Avyagrata, etc. we say. Another concept is the Mahat, the cosmic intelligence. Now, all these are constituted of by three gunas. And in the three guna you will find there is something called the cosmic intelligence, I said. Mahat is that. We can translate it as the Vishwa Buddhi. Then a first principle we have, then Ahankara we have. Ahankara is the functional unit for Jiva. All these ideas are presented before the devotee so that he can understand. After all, we are living in this world. We are not a body. We are not just the mind, just the intelligence, just the ego. We are the Jiva. And that Jiva is nothing but the infinite and supreme reality called God. So every one of you is carrying a particle or an amsha of the supreme divinity. And carrying such a divinity as a substratum for your whole personality, why is it that we are mourning? We are grieving. We are pleading and pleading and pleading, desiring and desiring, saying one lack or the other. Cannot devotion, cannot spirituality, cannot yoga fill the human heart in full is a question. And the answer is yes, yes, yes. Provided you understand devotion and pursue it in a knowledge-oriented manner, you will find all lacks will be wiped off, will be filled. And no craving will be left aside. You will become a boundless reservoir of abundant happiness. You will be floating in ecstasy. Pipalayana continues the discussion. Na atma jajanana marishyati naidhate sau. See how the devotional discussion beautifully transforms itself into a discussion around the self, making the devotee feel that he is the supreme self. Na atma jajanana marishyati naidhate sau. Nakshiyate savanavid vyabhicharinam hi. Sarvatra shashvadanapayubhalabdhi matram prano yathendriya balena vigalpidam sad. Na atma jajanana marishyati naidhate sau. Nakshiyate savanavid vyabhicharinam hi. The discussion has a very clear and a firm focus now. He says, come to the self. What is this self? aham pratyaya gocharaha, which you denote by the term I, that Atma, what you refer to as the I, na jajana, it never gets born. Na marishyati, it will never die, it does not die. Naidhate sau, it does not grow as the body grows in size. The body, yes, has undergone birth. Subsequently it grows. It will also die one day. Before death it will decline also. Nakshiyade savanavid vyabhicharinam hi. These are wonderful expressions. Sometimes I wonder why Srimad Bhagavata uses all these words. The word vyabhichari means what? Normally it refers to prostitute. Vyabhicharinam hi savanavid. Srimad Bhagavata says, all the objects in this universe, all are vyabhicharis. What does it mean? They are continuously changing. You cannot rely upon anything in this world. Everything is fleeting. You take a picture of your childhood and let there be a picture continuously every 6 months or every 3 months, and keep all the pictures when you grow 60 or 80 years old, and you will find they will be so different. Still you are saying, I am I was the boy, I was middle-aged, I am now more, I am an old man. You know, there is all the things are vyabhicharis here. Everything is fleeting. If we rely upon anything, see, yesterday's I, the same I am not today. My body has changed. Similarly, your relationships, everything is changing. In that, savanavid, it is knowing all the changes. Savanavid, vyabhicharinam hi. Atma is considered to be a witness, a substratum. Now here it is given the position as savanavid. That is the one thing that knows all the changes that are taking place in the world. Sarvatra shashvad anapai upalabdhi matram. We are entering into subtleties, mind you. Sarvatra, everywhere, in all places. Shashvat anapai upalabdhi matram. Anapai, it has no danger, no decline, nothing at all. Upalabdhi matram. What is the proof for the I, for the self? The feeling and the statement that I and the amness, I and the amness. This is the only evidence. And what is this I and what is this amness? It is only upalabdhi matram. It is an experience for you. It is a cognition. It is a recognition. It is a comprehension. Apart from the comprehension, there is no proof at all. Prano yathendriya balena vigalpidam sad. Prano yathendriya balena vigalpidam sad. It is like the prana that continues through all the embodiments of the jiva. This prana is also something long-standing. Prana is that vital power or cosmic force by virtue of which all activities are caused. So birth and takes place, growth also, but the prana does not by itself change at all. In the same manner, it is following the jiva everywhere. There is one important point we have to mention. See, he says, it always cognizes the changeful elements, what transpires in them. So if it is spoken of as that knowledge, then there is a group of people called Kshanikavadis. They say knowledge also is transitory. Every knowledge that you have knowledge about what? Say we are looking at a timepiece. As you see the timepiece, if you are looking at the second hand will go on moving. So where that second hand was there a second earlier, it is not there now. So the knowledge also is transitory and temporary. So if you say that Atma is only a cognition, that cognition also comes under Vibhicharinam, changefulness. That vada is not correct, because the knowledge that we are referring to in the spiritual context is not the knowledge of any object. It is the knowledge of the subject. That subject never changes. I don't know whether you are able to understand or I am able to explain it properly. See, there are two items here. The entire world is object, and the object is being seen by a subject. Only when the subject is there and it says that here is something I am going to see and objectify it, the object will be there. So without the subject, an object can never be. But without the object, the subject can be. How? When you sleep, no object is there at all, including your body, mind, intelligence and ego. Even then you get up and then say, I slept. So the subject can exist without the object. But no object can ever be without first there being a subject. About the knowledge I, none of these things is applicable. What are the things? Has the I ever changed ever since your comprehension for the first time? First time when you started saying I, and up to now, has it ever changed? It has not changed at all. Normally the things in this world are governed by a few traits. What are they? In Sanskrit we call it asti. First of all, a thing has to exist. So existence. Jayate. Then within the existence we find some kind of a birth. And following birth, what happens? Vardhate. It goes on enhancing or increasing. Thereafter it changes. Viparinamate. It changes. Apekshiyate. It goes on reducing, declining. And finally, nashyati. It dies. So these are the 6 lakshanas of all the objects in this world. Now, none of these lakshanas is ever true of the subject. We are speaking about the subject. I is a knowledge not pertaining to any object. Whenever an object is referred to, it is used as my sight. I have seen. It always refers to the object. And the I is the subject. Being the subject, it is alone, it is incomparable, there is no comparison at all, and it remains ever the same. Ever the same. So normally the Kshanikavadis are speaking about knowledge of the objects. And all objects being changeful, we agree that the knowledge also is changeful. But because this Atmic knowledge is about the subject, and the subject never changes, and the full proof of it is your own experience, it does not come under the Kshanikavadis' orbit at all. As you know, we are in the midst of the dialogue. Which dialogue? Between the 9 yogis and Nimi Chakravarti. And it is Pipalayana now who is exposing the supreme truth for the sake of King Emperor, as he desired himself. Andeshu peshishu tarushva vinishchiteshu prano hi jivam upadhavati tatra tatra sanne yadindriyagane ahamiprasupte kudastha ashayamrde tadanusmritirnaha sanne yadindriyagane ahamiprasupte kudastha ashayamrde tadanusmritirnaha. Srimad Bhagavatam, as I always say, is a wonderful scripture. Its main theme is generally spoken of to be devotion and devotional. But in discussing devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam, the author, brings a number of other elements, particularly the spiritual and the philosophical items there. Here see how he clearly speaks about what is the focus a seeker of truth or a devotee should have. Where is he to locate it, and how is he to proceed towards it? So, first of all he says, a number of creatures are there, And all the differences are brought about by prana and prana alone. So far as the consciousness aspect is concerned, there is no change in all the beings which pranas make differently. Prano hi jivam ubadhavati tatra tatra sanne yadindriyagane ahamija prasupte. This is a clear reference to avasthatraya. What is meant by avasthatrayam? The three mental states or states of consciousness that we have. Until you are able to come back to yourself and probe into what is taking place within your body in the sphere of the consciousness, your devotional pursuit is not going to be fulfilled at all. My dear viewers, are you listening to me and are you following me, traveling along with me in this pursuit of understanding and devotional objective? The Avasthatrayam clearly tells us how the entire world is projected by the waking state of our consciousness. Waking state is called Jagrat. Only when one wakes up, the world is perceived by him. The world is not perceived because of the power of the world. On the other hand, it is the consciousness which, aroused as it is, wakeful as it is able to perceive things through the senses, 5 sensory organs. These sensory organs are evolved, shaped, designed and formulated by the power of consciousness. The external world has nothing to do in designing or shaping or evolving our indriyas, our senses. The consciousness alone, by virtue of its own inline, inscrutable power, has brought about the senses. So with the senses evolved by the consciousness itself, perceives the world. Without exiting from the world, it perceives the world. When you look at the distant sun, that sun is remaining in its own place. We are upon the earth, nevertheless we perceive the sun. Is it because of the might of the sun or might of our senses and consciousness? So in the wakeful state, all these the consciousness perceives the entire objects. The perception, as I have stressed a number of times, I may have to stress it again and again. The consciousness is causing impressions of the objects in itself. All the impression is in the consciousness, and the consciousness itself is the maker of it. In any impression whatsoever in the consciousness, you cannot trace a content other than or besides consciousness itself. Now when the senses are all withdrawn, sanne yadindriyagane, the entire 5 organs of perception, when all of them apparently sanne become dissolved, so to say, the sensory functions completely come to a stop. Ahamicha prasupte, the ego which has been coordinating the senses, that also goes into a state of sleep. Now what is there left aside within the body? The senses are unfunctional. The mind which instigates or inspires or employs the senses, that is also not there. Buddhi or intelligence is not there. Even the ego is dissolved. Then at that time, after waking up, we say, Ashaya Mrde, without any kind of a medium whatsoever. What are the media? Externally in the body, senses are the media. Internally, mind is the medium. Intelligence is the medium, and finally ego is also a medium. Now all these 4, mind, intelligence and ego, together with the senses, all of them, when they are non-functional, they have apparently disconnected from Ashayamrde tad anusmridirnaha naha tad anusmridihi. We are able to get up and then say, I slept. Now I would like you, my dear viewers, to think seriously about it. This I knowledge and the experience of having slept, how are you able to muster it and present it when you wake up? Only because the I is independently capable of producing and gaining knowledge. In the waking state alone, the media are employed. All the media are evolved by the consciousness itself. So the consciousness can evolve all the instruments called the senses, mind, intelligence and the like. But without them also, it is throughout in the nature of knowledge. Knowledge is its very nature, and knowledge is its potential power and supremacy. And with that, it is capable of dissolving all the instruments, so to say, their functions, and yet tell you, I slept. The I slept, and the knowledge of having slept comes to the I all by itself. So it is very clear that there is something in the way of a kutastha, a changeless factor remaining in us.